everybody, it's Hexa, and today we're going to be talking about another super personal women's health related subject. I did recently also post a video talking about all of my top period tips, so I will leave that somewhere in the info box for you guys to check that out as well. And today I'm going to be talking about my recent experience with going off of my birth control. I started just noticing some subtle changes after I had been off my birth control for about a month, and I decided why not talk about them and just share my experience with you guys. Before I get into the actual body of this video, I just wanted to point out a few things. We're filming in a different location. I was considering filming all of my videos here, but now I think I'm just gonna get a ring light and then like film against a wall instead. But anyways, we are in a different location. I have two great windows in my room, and today I'm trying out the other window. Also, if you can see my plants in your peripheral vision, I hope you enjoy them. I've got this little guy who kind of looks like a teeny tiny bamboo plant. I don't know what exactly this is, but my mom told me it's a prosperity tree. And then this one is a pretty little orchid, and she makes very nice smelling little yellow flowers. I haven't named these guys yet, but I want to name them. So anyways, these are my plants in the bottom corners of my video. Also, my room is an absolute mess right now, so I don't know how my background is looking. It's probably a little shabby. I'm sorry. I'm doing a declutter and everything is currently a mess. Also, I have not filmed in like a pretty long time, probably like a week or two, because my auntie and my sister managed to spill water inside my computer, and because my computer has been broken, I haven't had something to edit on, so I haven't had like a reason to film because I can't edit, so why film? Because logic. But I did just finally send my computer in to be fixed, and it should hopefully be back in my arms tomorrow, so I'll be able to, like, you know, edit again, film again, do my thing. Anyways, we've got all of that out of the way, so let's just get into this video and talk about what I am noticing so far after being off my birth control. I'm not sure if I will post this video as soon as I'm done filming this part of it, or if I'll just like wait around another couple months to see if there are any like subsequent changes. Maybe I'll wait and like post them all together or do a part 2. Probably depends how long this part of the video gets. So let's just get into this. So for a little bit of backstory, I started taking birth control somewhere around September or October 2015. The birth control pill that I was taking is called Marvelon, and I would occasionally take Mercilon instead, which is like a slightly different version of the same thing. There's just like slightly different concentrations of the different hormones in Mercilon, but the availability of Marvelon has kind of been dwindling in pharmacies in Shanghai for a while now. I don't know why, but it was just getting harder to find Marvelon, so sometimes I would take Mercilon instead, and my doctor told me that it's fine to take one in place of the other because they're very similar in terms of the hormones and the concentrations of the hormones in those two pills. During the time that I've been taking birth control since around October 2015, I have taken a few breaks, but they've usually been like pretty short breaks, so I've been taking birth control pretty consistently. I was put on a different pill called Diane 35 around December 2016 to January 2017. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I'm just going to let you guys know, do not take Diane 35. It is not supposed to be prescribed as a birth control pill in the first place. I will make another video about this as well, but essentially the fact that I was prescribed Diane 35 made me completely lose trust in my gynecologist, and I will not be seeing her again. I haven't needed to go to a gynecologist again since then, but if I do, I will definitely be going to another one because I will not let that woman be poking around in my vagina after she gave me Diane 35. Like, no fucking way does that woman get to have any kind of say over my, what's it called, vaginal and reproductive health ever again after that. Not cool. I will make a video about why I'm so pissed about it, but moving on. The reason why I initially started taking birth control was because of my anemia. I was diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia in 2015, and I was prescribed iron supplements for that as well, but I had heard that taking birth control could make your periods lighter, so I decided to get on birth control just to see if that would help, and it did. I'm also a little bit underweight, so sometimes my periods would be quite irregular, like they would come a little bit early or a little bit late and just be a little bit erratic and random and unpredictable because of my weight. So for me, taking birth control was also a way to control that and to know that, you know, my period is going to come within a few days of taking my last pill. So the side effects I noticed from taking Marvelon are the following. I have notes. I took notes because there's a lot to talk about. So I noticed a little bit of weight gain, not a lot, and I feel like I lost most of it within like 6 months of being on the birth control. My boobs got bigger and they were quite tender, and that was a part of it that was pretty consistent. My boobs got bigger and they stayed bigger, and they did get quite tender at times. Like, you know, I don't know, my boobs were just like kind of hurting a little bit more than usual. There's probably gonna be a lot of like boob squeezing in this video, so I'm sorry. You can't like talk about your boobs and not squeeze them, you know what I mean? My skin got better. So when I started taking the pill, it was 2015, so I was 17 at the time, and I was kind of like, my skin had already been getting better as I was, you know, exiting my puberty years, but I did still have a few pimples here and there now and again. But after I started taking Marvelon, I did notice that my skin got quite a bit better. My periods did get lighter as predicted. And the last side effect, I'm really not sure if it had to do with the birth control, but I'm just gonna put it in here as a theory or a possibility. But in October 2015, around the time when I started taking Marvelon, I did start getting more depressed, and I had a relapse of self-harm, and yeah, I kind of just fell into a deep depression. And then around Christmas time, I started having these like random emotional outbursts where I would like start crying and then laughing and then crying and then laughing, or I would get like really angry about something tiny. But I have a long history of depression and other emotional issues, like mental illnesses essentially. So to me, like, I'm not sure if that had to do with the birth control or not, because October is also when the weather starts getting colder and it starts getting darker, so it could very well have been because of the weather as well, like seasonal affective disorder or seasonal depression. So I have no idea if I can blame that on the birth control or not, because you know, in 2016 I was still taking birth control pills, but I did start getting better towards the latter end of 2016. So it's debatable whether my depression onset was because of the birth control or not. So that was everything I experienced as far as side effects go. And then another aspect of it that I wanted to talk about is that at one point I decided that I would try using my birth control to skip periods. I just wanted to see if that would help with the anemia in any way, you know, if I was bleeding less frequently, whether that would actually help my anemia levels, and it did. So pretty much what I was doing was that I would take my birth control constantly, like on a loop, without leaving 1 week for my period. I would just take them constantly, and I allowed myself to have one period every 3 months. I didn't notice any serious side effects from doing that. I did notice that around the 3-month mark, because I tried to like push it a little bit, but around the 3-month mark I started to get breakthrough bleeding and some cramps, you know, like I would just get like a few tiny little drops of blood, and I would just, you know, get the typical feeling of period cramps. So I think for me personally, around the 3-month mark was when my body started like really pushing it and like really trying to have that period that it needs. So yeah, for me, having my period once every 3 months worked, and then pushing it past that point was a little bit iffy. But, you know, the period that would come every 3 months was always normal. I didn't get more bleeding than usual. It wasn't more painful than usual. The only difference I noticed was a little bit more of that, like, chunky kind of tissue that you can sometimes see on your pad or whatever. And my gynecologist told me that that's just because if you're not having your period every month, it gives the lining in your uterus more time to build up. So sometimes when that sheds, you can get like a little bit more of it coming out, and you can end up like seeing chunks of that tissue in your period. Gross stuff. I'm sorry. Just, you know, I'm trying to be informative here. But anyways, that's the entire like backstory of my birth control taking history. I felt like it's important to actually get that out of the way before I actually talk about my experience getting off the birth control. But now I think I've covered everything, so let's get into what I've noticed so far after being off the birth control. So I decided to stop taking birth control in October this year, October 2017. I decided to stop my birth control just to see if it would affect my anxiety in any way, because you know, as I said before, I wasn't sure if the birth control was causing the depression that started back in 2015 in October when I started taking it. But I was just kind of curious to see how my body and my mind would react to being off the birth control, and I decided I'd give it like 3 months and see if there's any differences, and just see how I'm feeling, and then I'll decide if I'll go back on it or not. I took my last pill in early October, and this is what I have noticed. So after taking my last pill, I got my period within 3 days, which is how I normally get my period if I'm on either Marvelon or Mercilon. When I was on Diane 35, my period would start on the 4th day, but on Marvelon and or Mercilon, it usually starts on the 3rd day. So I got my period as normal after taking my last pill 3 days later. And then after being off the pill for a few weeks, I started noticing some like gastrointestinal changes. I had been getting diarrhea pretty frequently, and I kind of just thought either I had a stomach bug or some kind of just something in my stomach, or that it was anxiety related, which can also happen. But after about 2 or 3 weeks of being off the pill, I stopped getting diarrhea, at least not so frequently anymore. So maybe that actually had something to do with the hormones that were in my body. At the time, I was still only having 1 period every 3 months, so maybe there was just like a buildup of hormones in my system. I'm not really sure, but I do remember that from when I had just started birth control, that it also caused diarrhea at that time. And then it kind of like stopped, and then it came back. My dog is barking. I'm so sorry. But the first month off birth control was pretty uneventful. I hadn't really had the time to let all of the changes sink in yet and really notice and decide whether it was because of the birth control or not. The first big change that I noticed, though, came when I got my second period after stopping the birth control. So the first period I got after deciding to stop taking birth control was, it started on the 7th of October. I have my Clue app over here. So this pretty much just lets me track my periods. You probably can't see it very clearly, but this is why I can actually like remember when my period started. So in October, my period started on the 7th, and then in November, it started on the 9th. So it stabilized immediately. I know some women have talked about going off birth control, and they've said that, you know, their periods were really erratic, and, you know, it wouldn't show up for like 3 months or 6 months since stopping birth control. But for me personally, it stabilized right away. I got my second period on the 9th, first period on the 7th, so pretty much a perfect normal cycle. On my second period, I noticed that it started really heavy. Not like in the sense that it was really, really heavy and like it was bleeding like crazy, but it was like really heavy for the first day. You know, like within 3 hours of noticing that my period had started, I was already like bleeding pretty heavily into a like full length pad. So I thought that was pretty weird, and that whole period actually carried on being quite heavy compared to the periods that I would get on birth control, but also compared to the periods that I was getting before I ever started birth control. So that was a little bit concerning. I didn't feel terrible, like I didn't get any insane cramps or anything, but you know, the heavy bleeding was just a bit like obviously I'm always worried about the anemia coming back, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm just kind of hoping that it doesn't continue and that it gets a little bit lighter as time goes on. Another thing I noticed was that a few days before my period started and for the first few days of my period, I was so tired, and I have never been the type of person who gets really intense PMS. I've never gotten intense PMS. I did have a few periods a couple years back that were like literally the period from hell. Maybe I'll do another video on those, but those were like kind of like random, and there was no rhyme or reason to why it was happening. I never realized why they were so bad, but I never had a really bad reaction PMS wise whenever I was getting my periods on a normal regular basis. So that kind of took me by surprise. I was so tired, like it was insane. I literally couldn't do anything, and I didn't feel like doing anything other than sleeping. I was completely exhausted, and I have no idea why. It like started a few days before my period, and I wasn't sure at that time if I would even get my period, because you know, I had heard that sometimes it can take a while for your cycle to normalize. But I kind of realized when my period started that it must have been caused by PMS. But wow, like I have never been that completely tired and exhausted and drained on a period. I guess there's gonna have to be an update video to this, because I don't know if that's gonna continue. I hope not. But I guess I'll have to update you guys on that and let you know if it goes away. My breasts also seem to have gotten back to normal. See all the boob grabbing. They've shrunk a little bit in size. They're not feeling tender anymore, and you know, I miss having like bigger, fluffier boobs, but I'm glad that they at least don't hurt anymore, because that was like a pretty consistent thing. My boobs were almost always tender and in a little bit of pain when I was taking birth control, and now they feel normal, and they've also just gotten a little bit smaller, and I guess just back to the size that they were before I started birth control. I started noticing that my hair is getting oilier, not in like a super gross way. My hair looks really oily right now, but this is actually argan oil that I just put on my hair to hydrate it. Please, Mocha, don't bark. Please, please, dog. Please, my dear dog. This is why I can't film. This is why I can't film. Because I don't want to film while there's drilling and dog barking. And it's impossible to film when there's no barking happening. Oh my god. Just ignore the dog. Ignore the dog. The dog needs attention. We're not going to give it to her. It's fine. So yeah, I did notice that my hair is getting a little bit oilier. So before, I only needed to shampoo maybe once a week, because my hair was getting really dry and really damaged from bleaching it so much. But now I feel like I have to shampoo it twice a week within like 2 days it starts just getting a little bit oily and a little bit gross, and I start feeling like I need to wash my hair. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not really complaining about it because I do feel like since my hair was so dry from all the bleach damage, I'm kind of glad that it's got a little bit more of that natural oil just to hydrate it and keep my scalp and my hair a bit more healthy, so I'm not really complaining. However, the skin changes I do not appreciate. So I'm not sure if my skin is getting oilier. It's getting drier and colder here, so I've started a new skincare routine, and so I feel like maybe my skin feels a bit more oily just because I've been using a ton of moisturizer. So I don't know if it's made my skin oilier, but it definitely has caused more acne, and it's like, I'm not happy about this. I thought we were over this. I really thought that I was out of the pimples phase, but I'm not. So I'm gonna zoom you guys in and show you guys what's going on. It's nothing crazy. Like, I never had really bad acne. I was very fortunate and blessed to have pretty good skin. I would occasionally just get like one gigantic pimple, but I never had like lots and lots of acne all over my face. But I'll just show you guys what my skin is looking like right now. I really haven't had, I've rarely had pimples ever while I've been on birth control. Alright, so this is the situation. Other than my chapped ass lips, we've got a little bit of a breakout here and here and here on my cheeks, which is weird because I never used to get pimples on my cheeks at all. I had a little bit on my forehead, but they're gone now. But then this is weird. Okay, so over here in my hairline, I don't know if you can notice it at all, but can you even see that? It's hidden by my hair, or maybe it's just like gone away. I don't know, but I've been getting a few pimples in my hairline, which I used to get these a lot. I used to get like scalp pimples, like right into my hairline and just on my scalp. And I am starting to notice a few little breakouts in my hairline. I also feel like my blackheads are getting worse. I can't tell, but like, can you just, I don't know. My nose just feels a little bit more textured, and I think maybe I'm having more blackheads in my nose area, but I'm not sure. Other than that, I did notice I had one little pimple like here on my neck somewhere, but I think it went away. And I'm starting to feel some on my back. Like tiny ones, but still, they're there, and I'm not happy about it. So that has definitely been not so fun. I am not happy to be back in my teenage skin phase, but I guess it's inevitable. Something had to happen. Something had to change. I'm not complaining about it too much because I feel like it's really not that bad. And I think it's gonna be fine. It's gonna go away. It's gonna be fine. We're fine. We're okay. My skin is fine. I've always had like pretty good skin, so I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just mildly peeved. So that was pretty much it. I haven't noticed any emotional changes really. Recently, these past couple days, my energy levels have been really depleted. I've been really tired, but I don't know if that has anything to do with birth control. I had an ear infection last week, so maybe I'm just still a little bit down in the dumps from that, so I'm not sure. So I probably will make an update to this video just to let you guys know how things are going. But let me know if you guys are actually interested in seeing that, and if you learned anything new from this video, or if it was helpful to you guys in any way. And also, I'm really enjoying making these videos on women's health related topics, so if you have any other like questions about periods or reproductive health or anything that you would like my take on, or that you want me to talk about or give advice about or anything like that, just let me know in the comments or on Twitter or wherever. If you like this video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. You can follow me on all of my social media, which is linked down below, and you can also donate to my Patreon to support me and my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! So those were the side effects that I was getting from my birth control, and then another aspect of it was that I at one point started using... Grandparents are home, dog is barking, sorry. Can you not though? Can you not? Blah, 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 blah.